So we're going to talk about it now, but Danny Cunningham's going to be on at 9 a.m. to give us some of the skinny on this because it seems to be crazy as my computer just crashed. Oh, there it is again, so I can pull it back up here again because that was a little bit odd. Heavy on sports, heavy.com. They have a lot of NBA stuff. It's just one of these things. Cavs Nation have put it out there on social media. Social media reactions brought to you by
Scheiben Jewelers, Cleveland's premier jewelry store.
6:26 and 35 seconds for those scoring at home. An NBA exec, this is too heavy, an NBA exec on the Cavs and Giannis says it's Defcon 5 for the Mitchell stuff if they don't go to the finals or at least the East Finals. So they can put Mobley on the table and another player, and that's a tough thing for the Bucks to say no to. End quote. Daryl Ryder in for the wonderful Anthony Lyman today.
I think they mean Defcon 1.
Well, that was the first thing. I said, guys, I hate to be a pain, but I always thought I used to think Defcon 5, and then, I started working with Owen 10 years ago, and Owen's like, guys, it's Defcon 1. I was in the Air Force for 12 years. I was like, thank God somebody cleared this thing up because we've been wondering.
Have you memorized the military alphabet?
No, but he can give it to me.
It's called the phonetic alphabet, Daryl.
Yeah. Have some damn respect for the veteran in the room over here.
Bravo.
Daryl looked at
Delta Echo Foxtrot.
Daryl looked at me like I was actually being like, we do this all the time, Daryl. All the time. Have some damn respect for the veteran in the room. My
dad's a veteran, so.
So, looking.
Plenty of respect.
Congratulations to you. Respect to him. DEFCON 1 is like what I think they meant. If they get to the finals, what constitutes an emergency for the Cavs this year? Because if they get to the finals, they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, and I'm hearing about Donovan being upset. Now, he might – it's so weird because he's not really public about being that upset. Things happen. Like when they made the trade with Darius Garland, I just assumed he was upset or that he was like, listen, something needs to happen or other bad things are going to happen this summer. So and then when Rich Paul said it in the interview, I basically assumed and put A and B together. Now, right. Maybe there's tentacles to it, but whatever.
There's talking that goes on behind the scenes, too.
Yes. So what constitutes an emergency for the Cavs?
First or second round exit.
Okay. Is that all there is? Because when they say Eastern Conference Finals, again, we brought it up yesterday. Now with the Cade Cunningham injury, this kind of mucks up everything about what you wanted to do. Because it felt like the Cavs were doing what they could to stay right there in the thick of that number 4 seed. Now, Detroit won last night, but they played Washington. Washington's basically running backwards at all times.
Right.
What constitutes an emergency? Is it just those 2 rounds? Because if you do go to the Eastern Conference Finals and you lose to a team that's not named Boston, or Boston's really good, and I still have the Cavs penciled into the finals, I know. So I'm not backing down from what I said here. Boston's really good, but if you do get swept by the Celtics, I really don't know how well Donovan's going to take that. And we won't know until a move's made because he's so quiet about all these things.
They're amidst an emergency right now already, and that is health.
They're an emergency.
It's health.
Wouldn't he understand? Wouldn't he understand that though? Wouldn't Donovan understand that?
You would hope so, but it is at times it's a zero-sum business, right? It's all about winning, and he's desperately trying to get that label of not being able to get through the second round of the playoffs off his back. And I understand that, but this team has been banged up from the opening tip of the season. Mm-hmm. They've never been able to get healthy.
Well, going back to Max Strus for crying out loud, even before the season.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and they're not healthy now. Jarrett Allen with this tendonitis, who knows when he's coming back. They don't really have a specific timetable other than that. We know he's not going to play on this road trip, and we'll see if he can play next week at some point or the week after that or the week after that, right? Donovan Mitchell has to sit out with an eye injury. He had to miss some games earlier with a groin injury that popped up again. So, this team Mobley's missed time. This team just can't get healthy. Part of the reason why they traded Darius Garland is because of health. You couldn't count on him. When he's healthy, dynamic player. The problem is he's rarely healthy. So, and James Harden last night saved them from themselves with his performance. They almost blew that last night. So, and he said it himself to Serena Winters after the game about how that was not the way they should be finishing off games. But for me right now, the emergency for the Cavaliers isn't whether or not they've got what it takes to get themselves to the NBA Finals. It's just, can they get healthy enough to be able to put their best foot forward in the postseason?
What I'm about to say might be the constitution for the emergency here with Donovan Mitchell, is that the first thing I said, John came in here before the show and asked me, are you concerned? He goes, I know that you and Lima dumped on it a couple weeks ago. Are you concerned with them not being able to close out opponents? Because a couple of weeks ago, John brought it up to us, and we're like, guys, well, John, it's the NBA. I mean, you're up by 20. It's a game of runs. It's an easy thing to say, but more now than ever, it's been that way where I don't think a 20-point lead is safe. In the first half, I don't think in the NBA, I don't think a 20-point lead is safe.
Not anymore, because all they do is run up and down the floor, shoot threes.
And that's a nice blanket to throw on it. But let me ask you this. If I'm sitting here saying, well, and the first thing I said to him after that was, and Donovan wasn't on the floor. Well, if I'm just so beholden to Donovan being on the floor for them to have a chance to either, one, be dominant against teams that they're supposed to beat. I mean, they're a 28 or 29 win team.
Right.
Chicago is. I know they started off better than what a lot of people thought, but they're a 28 or 29 win team. If you're struggling to beat them without Donovan on the floor, Donovan sees that sentence right there might be bothersome to him. Now,
did you see what the Cavs looked like when LeBron wasn't on the floor?
Yeah, they looked like.
I'm talking about when he was on the team.
You were absolutely right, because at times I think they just I think some of his teammates just took him for granted. That if he wasn't going to be on the floor that day, they just weren't going to win.
Right.
They weren't going to try. They weren't going to win.
And guess what? They didn't.
And I don't want that to happen with Donovan. Now, that pointed out, you have James Harden here. I think it's way too early, because James Harden bailed him out yesterday, so
yes,
I can't put it on James Harden. But I think it would be way too early in the James Harden era Cavaliers with Donovan Mitchell to say those things just yet. But as we go, I don't know if Donovan's going to have a problem with James. Would Donovan have a problem with anybody else? Because I thought Evan was good last night. We're not out of the woods with Evan.
No, and I think if they don't get where they expect to go, there's a real possibility Evan's the fall guy and Kobe Altman hits the eject button again and tries and gets Giannis from Milwaukee. And look, I'm willing to sign up for that. I really am. But then that just really puts you in the pressure cooker. The thing for me with the Cavs, Ken, is the pressure and dealing with the pressure, okay? It was, and I'm going to go back to J.B. Bickerstaff's time here. When they were coming off of, was it 18, 19 win seasons, mm-hmm. right? Mm-hmm. And they're just trying to get this thing on the tracks and get the program rolling. They were a feel-good story. Mm-hmm. Hey, young group of core guys, team put together by the GM. This wasn't, a bunch of superstars teaming up. They were a feel-good story. Then once they got to the playoffs, then the expectation became to win in the playoffs, and the pressure cooker began. And so this year, they're in a pressure cooker after what happened last year in the second round with Indiana. I go back to LeBron 2.0. That was a pressure cooker. Yeah, it was a fun group to be around, and they won at a very high level. Obviously, won the NBA championship, 4 straight NBA Finals appearances. But those were championship or bust teams. Well, that was a pressure cooker that those players. It was the business of winning, and I feel like this particular team right now, it's not so much about the vibes in the locker room, even though that's important. It's the pressure cooker, the business of winning right now that they're dealing with.
It is absolutely. When you made the move for Donovan, it starts that process, obviously.
When you made the move for James Harden, when you traded Darius Garland for James Harden, who was one of your core 4 pieces,
takes it to
that
another
right
level.
There takes it to a different level.
And then when you're bringing up the one guy, or when the article is bringing up the one guy that would change this or would help change this, Giannis would be the perfect guy to get with pressure.
Right.
Because Giannis has won a championship.
Yes,
He's dealt with that pressure. He's been to the finals before. So he would be the perfect guy to go out and get. Now, if the Bucks are watching this close, they're hoping you lose in the second round.
Yes.
Because it's just going to up the price to be able to go out and get Giannis Antetokounmpo.
And they're going to have to get a third team involved probably to give the Bucks the draft picks that they need in this trade as well.
Yes.
You're going to need a partner to facilitate that move.
So it's going to make you more desperate. I think that a lot of people, and I think that this is what plays into the way that a lot of fans feel about this team, is that I think we all have a problem dealing with that pressure. We went from this is a team that they had the chains in the locker room and the player of the game stuff and things like that. Like, this is serious now. This is really, serious stuff.
It's the business of winning,
They
Ken.
were having fun before. They were happy-go-lucky. And it was easy when you weren't that serious and teams didn't take you that seriously. And Donovan just isn't going to play with that anymore.
No.
And when you bring in James Harden, that takes it up another level. And now I do think there may come a time where I do think that this is at least an Eastern Conference Finals team. And if you lose to Boston in 5-6 games, and this is easy to say right now, we'll see how the series plays out. You lose to Boston in 6 games or 7 games. 5 games might be tough. 6 games, 7 games. I'd be saying, hey, let's not lose our minds here. But if you end up losing bad to Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, or you were to lose, God forbid, somewhere earlier than that, Donovan behind the scenes, he's not an outwardly crazy guy and saying these things in front of people. But it's like, no, we got to get rid of the diapers. We got to get rid of the bottles. It's time to get another grown man in here. And that's where I think that he might be sitting on. 216-474-0092. I want to get some of the people on this. Also, John Fana going to join us today. Reminding you, that Cavaliers conversation brought to you by the fine folks at Surfside Hard Iced Tea, who ask you to please enjoy your hard iced tea from Surfside responsibly. But, Daryl, you can already see it on the phones. It's getting time to either you-know-what or get off the pot.
Yep.
For a lot of fans with Evan. It's been 5 years, and I can go, guys, he's only 24. And the minute I say that, people go, yeah, so what? What's Wemby's age?
Was Defensive Player of the Year last year.
Well, he's Defensive Player. And they go, yeah, so what? What's Chet Holmgren do? I mean, like they do that all the time. I am met with that every time. So I know what the argument against Evan Mobley is going to be. I want to hold on to Evan Mobley. I've been an Evan Mobley guy, but I got to tell you, it has been frustrating because any time that he goes out there and sucks up the room, and up until last night, he had been sucking up the room plenty over the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
But anytime he goes out there and he's struggling, you start to get, when's the unicorn going to show up? Well, that talk has ended. So now you can see it coming. Anything that ends up being a struggle, because if you have Jarrett Allen out for any modicum of time, that's going to put more pressure on Evan. And then we're just going to look at it and go, can you or can you not handle it? If you can handle it, and I think a lot of Cavs fans don't think he can right now, then they're immediately want to go, you guys want to go all in? We're going to continue to go all in. Go give a call to Milwaukee. Thanks, but you got to go. Bring him in. He's won a championship. We got to do what we can before this thing goes to hell.
Another layer to this. Who's the controlling governor of the Milwaukee Bucks right now?
Jimmy Haslam.
Well, Jimmy Haslam could do the funniest thing. Might not be able to help the Browns win anything, but he could sure help the Cavs.
Football team might be on the mat right now, but let me help the basketball team here. Everybody's going to be happy in the end, maybe. 216-474-0092. Let me ask Eric in Euclid. Hello, Eric.
Morning, Ken. Earlier in the year, you had brought up the idea about sacrificing some wins for the development of Evan. So with Defcon 1 in mind and his lack of development, do you think that is where we're at right now? Just because he's not really the unicorn that we want him to be.
I remember saying that. Boy, you listen, don't you? Damn, he's right about that. I'm like, hey,
I got you, Ken.
If we don't have this, because I remember saying, hey, we don't have the same type of record, but Evan becomes this type of player. So you're asking, are we at that with his maturation process right now, Eric?
Yeah, like without the first or second round exit already being a reality, are we already at that point where it's like this trade needs to happen because he's not that unicorn? And I wish he was, and I wanted to give him that chance, but it's pretty clear he can't dribble like Giannis. He's barely making shots. His post game is like no better than it's been. So defensively, you get everything, but there's no unicorn there, and we do need to kind of push it in. I think for that to happen.
You, me, and Daryl all know the truth, right? That if they were to lose in the first or second round, people are going to be unhinged. That's a given. But if they go against Boston up in the Eastern Conference Finals, say things stay where they are, and they play Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals, and he shrinks and doesn't look as good, and you lose in 4 or 5 games, it becomes like a gentleman's sweep or something. Like, hey, if they lose in 6 or 7 games, I might make a strong argument for Evan. It depends on how he plays. But you know what's going to happen. They ain't going to blame Donovan, and they ain't going to blame James Harden. They're going to blame Evan Mobley. So you know how this is going to work, Eric.
I think I just see it right now is what I'm saying. But I was curious, given like what you had said earlier in the year, like, do you think we've already reached that point now with him?
I got to tell you, I think that a lot of people agreed with me at that time, and I'm glad you remembered it because it's a great thing to bring up, Eric, and thank you very much for the call. I think a lot of people would say, well, Kenny, I think he's failed to take that next step as a player.
Well, it's interesting. We had Brad Doherty on. You were out. I was in with Tone. And I asked Brad about
the day I was
Evan.
playing hide and seek out in Huron County?
It might have been.
Okay.
It was.
Okay, thank you. That's right. I was looking forward to that interview, too. So I wanted to ask about NASCAR, damn it. And Michael Jordan, go ahead.
And I asked him about Evan. And, my expectation that he was going to be a 20-plus point per guy double-double machine every night. And, Brad made a pretty good point that, everyone's looking for him to take his game to the next level, but his game already is at the next level. And yes, there's always room for additional development in there. But, when he is the focus, he steps up. Like last night, he stepped up for the Cavaliers. I think what's hurting Evan's development, and I also asked Brad about this, and he did. Obviously, Brad played the game. He's one of my favorite Cavs of all time. Yeah. But he disagreed with me. I think one of the problems is they got Evan spending so much damn time practicing these three-point shots instead of, like Eric's talking about, working on the post game, working on the intricacies within his game, because he's got to practice the shooting these three-pointers.
Well, I don't know if
I don't want 7-footers shooting three-pointers in the NBA.
But you have other guys who are able to do it, and they see a guy who has all these tools, and they know that he could stretch out a defense. So if he's capable, I do not blame them for trying to work on three-point shots with him all throughout his career. Jarrett Allen is not that guy. But what we have seen this year is that in these moments, Jarrett has been able to rise up to the occasion more than Evan has. And he's proven to be a hell of a hand with how this team is. And now that you have James, it's proving that Jarrett is even more important, which that's a totally different can of worms considering he's injured right now.
A couple weeks ago, they lost the game. Evan Mobley chucking a desperation three at the buzzer. It's like, well, that's not what I want to see trying to win a game, is Evan Mobley tossing up a three. That's not a high percentage play.
I don't disagree. We could be chasing something that wasn't there, especially because now you mentioned this yesterday, the timelines are all off now because you have a guy that's a veteran, you have another guy that's definitely a veteran, and you're dealing with Evan Mobley, and we're still talking about him basically being a toddler, right? The timelines are off. So I have to acquiesce to you. You're right. But as things were, it was like, hey, they got to work on the three. He's got to be that type of player where you have to come out and guard him so he can open up opportunities and lanes for everybody else. He hasn't been that guy. And I don't know if he's got the chance to be that guy. I don't know if he's had the chance to take a breath. Like, I could see Evan Mobley at 27, 28 years old with the Milwaukee Bucks in the postseason making runs.
100%.
But damn it, he's not that guy right now, and we need someone closer to that guy. So I have hope for him, but it's fading because I just don't think there's a realistic part where we're going to get that guy. I'd just be really surprised. I hope for him, but I don't think we're going to get that guy by the time we play, hopefully, Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals.
You don't have the luxury of patience right now.
Yes, exactly.
Whether it's this year, next year, the following season, because of Donovan Mitchell. And that's a great problem to have when you have a great player that's pushing your franchise to reach the ultimate mountaintop. But at the same time, the moment Kobe Altman made that trade for Donovan Mitchell, and he gave all those first-round draft picks, and he said at the time, hey, I know this accelerated the timeline a little faster than we had planned, but when a trade opportunity like that comes along, you got to pounce on it. And I do think that if Donovan wasn't here, right, if they never made that trade, we're having a completely different conversation about Evan